What did everyone have 25 years ago, 1999, that nobody has now? All their friends' phone numbers memorized. A binder of CDs under the driver's seat? The ability to drop off/greet people at the boarding gates at the airport. The ability to do dumb shit in your teens, 20s, without some fuckwit filming it. Being able to not be reachable, and people being okay with it. A reasonable expectation of privacy. Serious, which addiction isn't taken seriously enough? Mobile phones. Yes, there are some articles about the social problems it brings, but nothing is done. People are too hooked on these things. Absolutely. I find it interesting how quick adults are to complain about their kids' addiction to their phones, when they are equally addicted, if not more so. Love addiction. I mean relationship. Those people who never are single and have shitty relationships. Yes, my mother has this. 8 marriages while I was growing up, and now at 63, she's still trying to get married again. Neglecting her dog, forcing all of us to meet each man. Each new man is perfect and the one until he isn't, and she meets someone new. I was the one who suffered the most as a child, and my resentment towards her now is off the charts. What's a Gen Z stereotype that you think is completely accurate? I think the stereotype of Gen Z being always online is completely accurate. It's hard to deny how obsessed we are with social media and our phones. A ton of learned helplessness. I worked in higher education admin for a long time, and every year, the amount of work that students were willing to do without their hands being held got less and less. They'll respect your pronouns, but not you as a person. They hate on millennial fashion while wanting to dress exactly like we did 15 years ago. They're both incredibly open-minded and closed-minded at the same time. They work in retail with AirPods on. What's the most enraging example of a downgrade sold as an upgrade? Local restaurant dropped the price of their burger by $1, but it no longer includes fries. They're an extra $5. They said customers now have more flexibility. Flexibility to get burgers someplace else. I think it was Cadbury who tried to sell their shrinkflation of supermarket chocolate as doing their part to tackle obesity in the UK. Being upgraded to a Comfort Plus middle seat when I had a regular economy seat in the window. Upgrading to ad-free on Amazon Prime. I was so upset a few weeks ago when the show I was watching all of a sudden had ads. I pay for fucking Prime. This service is included in my subscription, and you just raised the subscription fee. My wife told me I am just being an old man, and I'm like, well, I'm fucking 33, and it's time for this subscription shit to get off my lawn. Removing physical buttons and knobs in cars. It's way cheaper for them to program everything into a screen, but they market it as premium luxury. Not to mention physical buttons and knobs are way easier to use, especially if you're the driver. What's the most useless profession that still brings in $100K plus? Actually, I would say $100K is about the right salary for that job. It's when it pays $30 million plus that you know there's a problem. Now, when someone like Sam Altman stands to make over $400 million from the Reddit IPO, then we might need an explanation of exactly what he did at Reddit that has added enough value to the world to justify that payout. In Canada, we have a Governor General, which is a leftover position from when we followed the crown. It's the most pointless job in our country. And we pay this person $350K a year, which is $50K more than what she was making 2 years ago. She also has spent more than $3 million on luxury travel expenses. I'm not even exaggerating when I say this. This lady spent $70K on a luxury limousine service to ferry her 50 feet. In 2022, Simon routinely traveled with an extended entourage, including her husband, secretary, several communication strategists, and aides de camp, alongside her official videographer and her official photographer, among others. The group stayed in pricey accommodations in far-flung countries, including the Ritz-Carlton in Berlin, the Great Scotland Yard Hotel in London, the 1919 Radisson Blu in Reykjavik, Iceland, and the Jumeirah Emirates Towers Hotel in Dubai, UAE. Simon and company racked up a near 6-figure in-flight catering tab during a week-long trip to the Middle East in March and dropped $71,000 at Icelimo Luxury Travel in Iceland's capital city in October. Just occurred to me because I heard about a guy whose entire job is reselling Magic the Gathering cards, and apparently he makes a lot. If you suddenly had an infinite amount of money, what would be the first thing you would buy? Infinite money? Legitimately, truly infinite money. I can never run out, no matter how much I spend. A health insurance company. Plans cost $10 a month, and we have hardship plan for anyone who can't afford that. We cover everything, including vision and dental. There's a $10 visit copay and a $5 prescription fill copay, both waived for people on the hardship plan. Every hospital in the world is in network. I vote for Yverthel to have the infinite money. One of those fancy self-cleaning cat litter boxes, so my dog stops trying to eat cat shit. The first thing I bought would be a fairly modest house with a nice yard for my son to finally have a yard to play in. UCS Millennium Falcon Lego set. Priorities, people priorities. What's an oddly specific scent you like? The smell when you first walk into a hardware store, Home Depot, Lowe's, etc. I think it's the sawdust. It used to be the smell of a freshly opened audio cassette. The smell of old books, I think. That first lung full of salt breeze when arriving at the ocean. Pool chlorine. Reminds me of my childhood, when my grandma would get me a summer pass, and I'd bicycle to the city pool after breakfast and bike home in time for supper. I even found a perfume that has a slight pool chlorine scent that I love. Fresh smell of rain, especially the first rain of a season. What was the biggest military blunder of all time? Right at the end of WW2's phony war period, there was a major miles-long traffic jam of German armor and artillery that essentially ran from the Ardennes forest back to the German border. French air reconnaissance spotted the traffic jam, but their superiors didn't believe the intel and chose to completely ignore it. France basically blew a golden opportunity to neutralize enough German armor that nobody would have ever heard the term blitzkrieg. France fell roughly 2 weeks later. Sound like a highway of death that wasn't, and a classic example of how logistics and intelligence can win and lose wars. There was a reply in a thread similar to this. I'll paraphrase. The Khwarezmian emperor killed an emissary of a neighboring state who was sent to ask for the neighbor's trade caravans to be protected from a wayward governor of the empire. The emperor refused to hear the emissary and had him executed. The emissary was Genghis Khan's, and Khan promptly erased the entire Khwarezmian Empire from the face of the earth in retaliation. I'll keep looking for the original reply. It's quality. Easily the Battle of Tsushima. Sailed the entire Russian Navy around the globe to be annihilated in a little over 24 hours. Let's talk about Jean-Baptiste Jules Bernadotte and a blunder that, while more political, had dire military consequences. A brigadier general in Napoleon's army, Bernadotte rose to the rank of Marshal of the Empire, thanks to his successes. Due to his key role at Napoleon's victory at Austerlitz, he was even made a prince. Not bad. Well, one day he captures this Swedish noble, Gustav Morner, who has a great time with him and goes back to Sweden singing his praises. Meanwhile, Sweden is having a hell of a time figuring out its succession. So Gustav's nephew Karl says, "Hey, I have a great idea," and offers Bernadotte the crown. Karl is in no way empowered to do this. The Swedes welcome him back to Sweden with the greatest WTF of all time and lock him up for his troubles, then return to debating the question of succession. Napoleon hears about this and just kind of laughs it off because, of course he does. It's ridiculous. But somehow, over time, both Napoleon and the Swedes start thinking, actually, this seems like a good idea, and the Swedes eventually offer him the crown. Bernadotte goes to Napoleon for permission to accept the role, and Napoleon says, "Yeah, sure, you just have to promise never to raise arms against me." Bernadotte refuses, saying he can't fulfill his duties to Sweden while maintaining that promise, and Napoleon just kind of laughs it off again and says, "All right, go do your thing, kid." Anyways, 3 years go by, and Napoleon is fighting the crucial Battle of Leipzig. As the battle comes to its final phases, who comes in with 30,000 fresh troops? Our boy, Jean-Baptiste. Now King Charles XIV John of Sweden. A bunch of Saxons who used to serve under him switch sides, and Napoleon is forced to retreat back across the Rhine, leading to his eventual abdication and exile to Elba. Bernadotte's great-great-great-great-grandson is the current king of Sweden, Karl XVI Gustav. The current head of the House of Bonaparte runs an investment firm. Emperor Nikephoros deciding to rest in the Varbitsa Pass after plundering Pliska. His silly decision to set up camp in the middle of the mountain allowed Krum to not only ambush him and his army, but to also capture him. As punishment for sacking his capital, Krum beheaded Nikephoros and turned his skull into a wine goblet. This defeat deterred the Byzantine Empire from trying to cross the Balkan Mountains for nearly 2 centuries. What was something socially acceptable 10 to 20 years ago that'll make you public enemy number 1 today? Writing media articles about celebrities gaining weight and calling them fat, losing control, getting lazy, etc. for it, even though realistically they'd probably gone from a size 2 to a size 6 in the space of 10 years, aka the normal kind of weight gain. Ah, yes, this person in their 30s looks like a person in their 30s. Clearly, they're lazy and obese rather than just aging. Using gay as an insult. Lomeo, I thought 10 years ago meant 2000s. It's actually 2010s. Holy shite. Smoking in your car with your kids' babies trapped inside. Saying the N-word but not using the N-word, like quoting it or referring to it. Showing up unannounced and knocking on a friend's door just to hang out. Well, that's another episode of Ask Reddit in the books. I really appreciate all of you who made it this far into the video. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, it would really help the channel out a lot if you gave the video a thumbs up, subscribe, or leave a comment down below. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.